Let's talk about higher order functions. HOF. So does anyone know what a higher order function is in JavaScript?
It's a function that can be passed as an argument or returned by another function.
Yeah, that's correct. So Nico nailed it on the first minute of the workshop. So a higher order function, it's a function, that's the first thing. It's not a Boolean, it's not a string, yeah? It's a function. And then there are two types of functions when dealing with H of F. So first of all, it's a function that is passed as an argument to another function, or it's a function that is returned by another function. I would like obviously to deal with both examples in the next 29 minutes. So, first of all, let's talk about functions as arguments. If I got my function multiply, yeah, and I receive number 1 and number 2, I can return number 1 multiply n times number 2. And of course, I can invoke it, yeah? Multiply 2 and 4, what will this function return? 8, right? That's the silly question. That's a ping. You know what a ping is? When you do ping, you are waiting for some response, yeah? If you don't get any response, that means that probably no one is paying attention. Right, 8, that's correct. That's the most trivial case. What type of data number 1 and number 2 are? Numbers, correct. However, in reality, here, you can pass numbers, you can pass any type of data, including functions. In other words, can we do that? What type of data number 1 is? Correct, it's a function. Because it's a function, the first thing I would recommend to do is to rename it. Because if I got an argument called num1, it looks like it's a number, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, a million, but it's a number. But if it's a function, yeah, this is short of convention. It's like, hey, be careful, this is a function. Yeah? So you cannot obviously multiply functions. You cannot multiply reference in memory. That's a bit awkward. But obviously you can play with that. You can deal with it. So, because now number 1 function, it is a function, I can invoke it. Yeah? And same for number 2. So what will my function return? 8. That's the same result. But you see the difference, right? So number 1 function and number 2 functions, they are higher order functions. That's probably the most simplistic usage of higher order functions. This is an arrow function, right? Can we use a classic function instead? Can we do that? Is that legal? Of course it is. Yeah? You are using higher order functions from the first week. Other question is whether you are aware or not. I'll show you an example. Say it again? Console log? No, not console log necessarily. But do you know how to run a piece of code in JavaScript with some delay of half a second, for instance?
Oh yeah,
Set timeout. So with set timeout, as you can probably see, how many arguments set timeout receives? Probably, generally speaking, a couple, right? The first one is the code that you want to run. And the second one is after how long? So in other words, after half a second, after 500 milliseconds, I want to run that function. And that function, it is a higher order function. Because it's a function that we pass as an argument of another function. Make sense? Yeah? And of course, here we can do whatever we want. We can do console.log hello. So if we run the snippet, after half a second, it returns hello. Higher order functions as arguments. And of course, these functions are completely valid from any point of view. For instance, can we pass arguments to the higher order functions? Of course we can, right? So can anyone tell me, let me rephrase that. Can anyone tell me what will this slightly more complicated function return?
M is undefined, we haven't defined what we are passing.
We haven't defined what we are passing.
Yeah, no, arguments.
N is 2. N is 2 and 3 for the function.
Right, so
2 by 3 and 4 by 3. Oh,
Thank you.
So Luigi, what will this function return?
I think it's 72. So it's n multiplied by 3. We're passing 2 as an n, so it's 6. And this is multiplied by whatever that num2 function returns, which is m times 4. So m is 3, so 12. And 12 times 6, 72.
That's correct. Yeah, so Luigi is completely right. So the way it works is, first of all, we'll evaluate number one function, yeah, and then the result of the function will be multiplied by the result of the next one. And to prove that, let's add some breakpoints. So, do you know what's the execution order? Who wants to start? There are some points on the board challenge, of course. Not Nico, no, you cannot start. Sorry about that. Sule. Okay, 6. And then what? 6, 7.
I'm not sure because I think at some point it returns to 3 and then it goes back to the function. I don't know in each way it does it.
All right, let's leave it there. Gagwa. Right. Wendy. 6, 7.
3,
Yeah.
then 9,
9.
and then 3 again.
And then 3 again. All right.
I'm not sure.
Pelin.
3, 6, 7,
3, 6, 7,
3, 9.
3, 9. Right. Bilius. I just want numbers, Bilius. 6. Yeah. 6, 7, 9. I didn't get that. I'm just using the number method of JavaScript. If you give me a non-numeric number, I return not a number. Free. Fair enough? Okay, so this is same as Wendy. It's not the same as Wendy. It's not the same, so let's leave it there. Let's leave it there. Book it.
6,
Yep.
3,
Yep.
7,
Yep.
9,
Mm-hmm.
and 3.
Carl? 6. Yep. 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 That's it. All right. Vivian?
I say 3,
Yep.
6, 7,
Yep.
3,
Yep.
9,
Yep.
3.
All right. Florin? Oops, sorry. Free? Yep. Second? As well as Vivian, all right? Probably you've noticed I'm wasting your time, right? You understand why? It's okay, it's okay. I'm happy to waste your time and my time as well. Anyone else who hasn't contributed? Davide? No, I know you haven't, but you're free to participate if you want, of course.
Confused. Let me check.
Yeah, go for it.
6.
Yep.
Then I think 7.
Mm-hmm.
9.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end we'll go out with return 3.
All right.
That's it.
Anyone else?
I have a question.
Yeah, wait, Billy, sorry. We need to complete that. Anyone else, including Nico, Luigi, anyone who hasn't participated at all? No? Right. So again, you know the reason why I'm doing that, because this is super important, super important. And this is another reason why you should do the board challenge. The board challenge is not only about solving that particular problem, it's to getting used to understand the flow within JavaScript. I'm afraid to say that you are all wrong. And that's a problem, because you need to understand these things to get a job. So please try to spend as much time as necessary with the breakpoints, which I'm afraid you are not doing. So the reason why you are all wrong is, well, first of all, there is something pretty obvious to me. Is line number 3, it cannot be the first one. That's absolutely impossible. That line will never, ever run until we invoke it, yeah? So I don't know the details, but for sure, line number 6 will run before line number 3. That's fundamental. Yeah, of course. To execute the function, first of all, we have to invoke it, yeah? That's the very basics of JavaScript. So please remember, first we invoke the function, and then we do whatever we want in there. Yeah? So that's the first thing. We'll execute line number 6, then we'll invoke the function. So then, after line number 6, we got line number 3, we cannot run line number 7, we cannot run line number 9, because we'll stop here, and then we'll see what happened in that line. Yeah, but first we need to stop on line number 6. Oh, sorry, line number 3. Once we stop on line number 3, JavaScript will say, oh, I have to invoke a function called number1 function. No problem at all. Let's trigger it. And that means that the flow will go to line number 7. Yeah? And afterwards, finally, eventually, they say, I'm not done yet, because there is another function that we have to invoke, number 2 function. Yeah? And then finally, it will run line number 9. So let's run that to see if that theory is right or wrong. Of course, if I'm wrong, if any of you is right, you get lots of points on the board challenge. So, you see, my first theory is correct, and some of you were right, to be honest, yeah? Which is a good thing. So first, that's the first thing, yeah? We should invoke the function. So then we'll stop on line number 3. Here we go, yeah? And then JavaScript will notice that we have 2 functions. What's the first one? Number 1 function, no problem at all. It will stop on line number 7, next. Here we go, you see? And then, after invoking line number 7, it will go back to the next function. So it will jump to line number 9. Here we go. And that's it. That's it. That's it. Bucket was very close, very, very, very close to solve it, as you can see. The only issue that Bucket had was thinking that line number 3 was invoked twice. That's not true. How many times are we calling the multiply function? Only 1. Then line number 3 will run only once. Apart from that, Bucket at least was right on the flow. Yeah, you see, 6, 3, 7, and 9.
Basically, is the first return. They are calling the other 2 functions.
Mm-hmm.
So we finish that. So 3
Yep.
and then we have.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Don't forget that the breakpoint stops before evaluating the content of the line. Yeah, that's why 3 happens before 7 and before 9. So that's the flow with higher order functions as arguments. Do you have any questions? No? Right? So there is a pretty decent training, I believe, right, on the intermediate JavaScript, if I'm right, about higher order functions. It's very important. Yeah. So please spend as much time as necessary dealing with that, because this is very important in JavaScript. Right. So that's the first aspect of higher order functions, arguments. However, as Nico proposed on the first 25 seconds of the workshop, there is a second usage for HOF, which are the return statements. Let me rephrase that. I'm again going to simplify my example. So I got number 1 and number 2, so my function will return number 1 multiplied by number 2. So if I pass 3 and 4, what will my function return? 12, correct. And if I add some breakpoints, can anyone tell me the execution order? Will it be 3 and 6 or 6 and 3? 6 and 3, right? Thank you, because of what we explained a minute ago. First, we invoke the function, and then we execute it. Yeah? So, what type of data the multiply function returns? It's a number, correct. And if I do that, what type of data multiply function returns? A string, correct. And if I do that, a Boolean, correct. In other words, a function can return any type of data. Strings, numbers, Booleans, arrays, objects, and functions. Of course. Can we do that? Is that valid, technically speaking? And now the question is, how do we, or let me rephrase that. If function is called multiply, let's multiply something, right? So, can anyone tell me how to get the result of multiplying 3 and 4 after invoking the function. Yeah, like that? That's correct. That's correct. Vivian is right, and we'll explain why. You see, it does work. The reason is, if I return a string or a number, return 3 multiplied by 4, I think it's pretty obvious that I can do result equals, yeah, and then I can do console.log, the result is result, yeah, easy. And that will return, the result is 12, no problem at all good, yeah. However, if that returns a function, what sort of data return is? It's a function, that's correct, Bilius. Multiply returns a function, then result is a function. And that means I can invoke it. That's the same thing. You see? So we can do it inline as Vivian proposed a minute ago. We can do that. Or we can do it later on. Both are equally valid. It depends when do we want to execute the function. In that line, we are not executing the higher order function. We're just keeping a reference to it. And on the line after, this is where we are actually changing it. Let me change the question. I want to make this example pass. Does anyone know where should I pass number 1? In which line? Correct. In here we pass a number, 6. And how can I provide number 2? In here. Correct. 7. So what will my function return? 42. That's correct. Yeah. So this is a higher order function that is returned by another function. And of course, because it's a function, we can do whatever we want with it, right? Can we have nested functions? So can we do that? So, if I want to display 24, so that return statement should return 24. What do we need to change? That won't work, right? If we evaluate it, what sort of data that highlighted text will return? What? A function, that's correct. That's correct. So how can we resolve it? That's correct, Bucket. That's absolutely correct. For simplicity reasons, we can do everything in one go, right? We can simply put 3 here. And then what else? Another parenthesis. Passing what? I want to return 24. 4, that's correct, Vivian. Yeah? So multiply is a function that returns another function that returns another function.
The level of the function.
Yeah, correct. Can we add a 4th one? So look at the problem. What I want now is to return 12. Oops, sorry, too many parentheses, not 2. I spoiled it a bit. So what do we need to do to display 12? A 2 where? Correct. Why? Because we pass number 1, multiply by number 3, 6, multiply by number 4, 6 by 4 is 24, and all together divided by the last one, 2. And that will obviously return 12. So, if we add some breakpoints, can anyone tell me the execution order?
So it starts on 12.
12? And then what?
Probably goes, wait, I'm thinking, beginning or end?
Right, timeout values. Next one. Any volunteer?
You can't have that.
Wait. So, BBN said 3. We start at 3. 12, 3. I'm going to get a heart attack if anyone tells me we start at 3. 12, 3, and then what?
All the way down.
All the way down?
2, 6.
4, 5, and 6. What do you think, guys? BBN is absolutely right. Yeah? We start from the top, and then we keep invoking down. Look, 12, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then 6. You're right, Vivian. Well done. Yeah? Yep.
This is the double always. In this case, it's not 30 the console log the column because we assign a function to the result as a value, no?
Yeah?
So to call a function, we need to put something in there. This is something we always struggle. So for me, we are calling the result now. So 13 and then 12.
I didn't get the question at all.
It's not just split it.
Can you rephrase it?
In this case, no result. Okay, it's the first one. We are not.
It's the first one. What do you mean it's the first one?
We are calling the variable result
Yeah?
in the 13.
Yeah, correct.
Console log. So then we have 12 and then all the rest. So the first breakpoint is not 13. The moment that we call because in the 12 we declare only.
No. On 12, we execute all the function pam, from top to bottom. So result after line number 12 is a number already. So all the complexity, all the stress is on line number 12. Because on line number 13, we are simply displaying the result. Yeah? In other words, if I add a breakpoint on number 13, look at what happened with the result. It has been already calculated. Yeah? Of course, if you don't like it,
If you remove, for example, the number 13,
you,
console log,
if you remove the console log, yeah, then what?
what happens? It will be executed.
Of course it will be executed. Of course it will be executed. Yeah. Yeah, but I need to.
Only the step. We don't have.
No, it's executed, but we are not returning it. That's why you don't get any result. But if we do something like that, you see, you get the number at the bottom. So yeah, of course it's executed. Yeah. So can we look at what I'm doing now? Can we do that? Can we move few things down? Yeah, of course we can. Of course we can. Now we are splitting the stress. So now on line number 12, we're only executing the main function, and then we are delegating into the next line, all the other functions. Does anyone know, or can anyone see any advantage of splitting the stress across multiple functions? I'll give you an example. What happens if we want to multiply different values, but the first one is always 2. Yeah? If we do it like that, and we want to invoke it several times, we always have to pass 2, right? So, for instance, we could do that. Result 1, result 2, and then result 3, right? So, and then everything changes apart from the first number. That's okay, that's okay, we can do that, no problem at all. So we can display result 1, result 2, and then result 3, yeah? All good. And it will display all the values, fantastic. However, this is a bit unnecessary. Because that's a bit unnecessary, one of the benefits, and that's a job interview question, of higher order functions is encapsulation. If you need to do the same task multiple times, you can do something very sexy. You can do that. You can type let result equals. I put the common part away, so then, look. And that will obviously return the same thing. Yeah? So we can reuse different, we can partially reuse our logic. Yeah? And of course, what happens if the first and the second argument are always the same? The same thing, right? We can move it, and then our code becomes a bit simpler. Right? All good. Any questions? No? Can we transform that into arrow functions? Because that's a bit callback hell. You remember the callback hell? That picture with lots of nested levels? Yeah, that's complicated in JavaScript. So look how can we replace that with arrow functions. It's, I mean, nothing exotic, to be honest. Yeah? And then we can do that, and then we can do that, and then we can do that, right? So that will, of course, it will work. However, we can simplify it even further. Can we do inline return statements? Of course we can. Look at how sexy this code is now. So we can, I'm going to type everything from scratch. It will be probably simpler. So my multiply functions will return another function that will return another function that will return another function that eventually will return number 1 multiplied by number 2 multiplied by number 3 and all together divided by number 4. One line. Not sure if this is the most readable piece of code in Earth, but still, it's doable. Yeah, and as you can see, it still works. Yeah. And the very last question of the day. Can we combine higher order functions as arguments with higher order functions as return statements? That's the fifth question on the intermediate training. This is where the majority of the people struggles on the first attempt. In other words, can we do something crazy like that? You see? Oops, number 1 function, eh? So now let's do some sort of TDD. We'll be talking about TDD towards the end of the bootcamp, by the way. So let's see, how can we invoke it to return something meaningful? So let result equals multiply. And then, what can we pass as arguments? Another function, that's correct, Vivian. So let's pass another function, and my function will return 3, for instance. Yeah? So then, if I want to return 12, what else do I need to do? 4 where? After comma, there are no commas.
I mean, 3, comma.
3 comma.
No, no, comma.
Hmm.
It's only the parentheses.
Mm. So look.
Outside.
So Nico's point of view is very controversial, yeah, because he's assuming our multiply function has 2 arguments, one as a function and the second one as a number. But I can only see one argument here, so number 4 will be massively ignored, yeah. So that won't work.
If we put inside the parentheses.
Inside the parentheses, like that?
Now,
No.
in the other.
In the other one. What do you mean in the other one?
The first one, before the row,
Before.
Yeah.
like argument for the.
And then, yeah.
I'm not following you.
Inside the parentheses.
Inside the parentheses, here, 4.
Is the name.
No,
Yeah. No.
no.
No, I think after you need
Correct. Correct. What type of data our multiply function returns?
The function.
It returns another function. In other words, that highlighted text returns a function. We can invoke it.
Yeah, this is 4 there.
4, correct, correct,
Yeah, this one.
correct. So if we do console log, the result is, what will that return, guys? 12, right? Correct. And the very last question. Can we actually, let me rephrase that. If we pass number 2 in here, what do we need to change on the example to return 24? I want that to return, the result is 24. And obviously, I don't want to change any of that, or these numbers at least. Here, what we need to pass here? Argument. Num. All right, and then what?
3 by num.
Free by num. I like that, Bilius. You see how complex this is already, right? But this is real JavaScript. It's not that exotic. You'll have to face these sort of issues relatively often. So let's read that snippet. No, instead of reading it, let's add some breakpoints. That's the very last thing of the day, guys, I promise. So, with my breakpoints, I'm adding a breakpoint on line number 8, 9, 11, 3, and 4. 5 points on the board challenge for the first valid answer. So take your time. Anyone wants to try? 5.5 points? Sule, go for it.
The easiest answer will be 8, 9, 3, 4, 11.
8, 9, 3, 4, 11. All right. 8, 9, 3, 4, 11. What do you think, guys? Anyone else? Now the points are going down instead of up.
But 8,
Who's talking? 8.
and then, is the,
3.
Time out.
time out.
I want you to think before start talking, guys.
8,
Who's talking? Lucia? Lucia, 8, 3,
9,
9,
4, 11.
8, 3, 9, 4, 11. All right?
4, 8, 11.
8, 3, 9, 4, 11. If you agree with any of the, I'm not necessarily saying that you are wrong, to be honest. Just feel free to agree to say, yeah, I agree with Lucia, I agree with Nico, with Sule, with whoever. Who agree with Lucia? A bucket? Right? Points keep going down, which is a very way in British language to tell you that you are wrong, right?
8, 3, 4.
Wendy,
8, 3, 4, 9, 11.
8, 3,
4.
4, 9, 11. 8, 3, 4, 9, 11. Right, 8, 3, 4, 9, 11. What do you think?
I agree with Wendy.
So Davide agrees with Wendy. Davide. Anyone else?
Yeah, I agree with Wendy.
Anyone else, guys? Yeah. I stopped the counter, which is again an elegant way to say Wendy is right. Yes. Yes. Can you explain why, Wendy?
What you said before, you go 4 and then go to 3.
Yeah. At least, sorry, Wendy. It's
Invoke the function.
correct. It's fantastic to see that no one said that the first line is 3 or 4 or 11. Yeah. At least we understand where to start looking at. Yeah, which is very important. Yeah, because if you look at the wrong starting point, then everything else is wrong. Okay, so we start on then line number 8, and then what, Wendy?
Go to 3.
Go to 3, correct? So we invoke the multiply function. So we are here.
Yeah, you go there.
Yeah.
And then you go to the line 4.
Why you go to line 4?
Because you have your function there.
We go to line 4. We do go to line 4 because that, yeah, because we are invoking the higher order function. Yeah, correct. So we go to line number 4, and then what happened, Wendy?
Go to 9.
Correct. As part of line number 4, we do now it's time to invoke our number 1 function. Where is it? Where is it? It's here. Yeah. So then we go to 9, and that's it, right? So we finish our execution. So finally, we just display the result. Yeah. So what will that function return, Wendy? So Wendy,
Sorry. You have 4 here.
it's 24. Bucket is right. Yeah. Let's have a look and let's see if we are right or not. We start at line number 8, good thing, and then line number 3, fantastic. So now we'll invoke the higher order function. That means we'll jump to line number 4, that's it. And now we have to invoke the other higher order function as argument, which is all the way down, yeah? Here you go, line number 9. And then finally, that's it. We'll do all the calculations. So that means that now result will be 24, and we'll simply display the result. As you can see here, the result is 24. And that's it. So do you have any final questions? Is that any easy? Probably it's not that easy. It's not that easy. But the important message is respecting this is not trivial. I hope you at least understand this is very important. And that means it deserves some time, some efforts. Yeah? If I had to interview someone, to me, my question will be literally that. Tell me about that algorithm and show me, explain where the breakpoints are and stuff like that. Because that can give you so much information about how much control that person has on the JavaScript flow. Yeah? So please spend some time. Again, as usual, do you remember the and, or, truthy, falsy? I told you, just play with random examples, string and boolean, or, blah, 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 and try to predict, try to answer. Yeah. So the same thing with here. Try to create several examples and then try to understand how it works by creating breakpoints. And of course, spend as much time as necessary with the intermediate training, higher order function, which I think is quite good actually. Anything else? No? That was it, guys. Thank you for watching.